Alright guys, in this video we're going to be looking at HTTP requests, and we're going to be doing this quite a bit throughout the course. But I'm going to start off by showing you how to do it with the Fetch API, because you can basically do it with the native Fetch API, but I prefer to use Axios, which is a very small library to deal with HTTP. And when I use React, I prefer Axios. When I make requests from the back end, like Node.js, I also like to use Axios as well. So that's what we'll be using. But let's do a quick example with Fetch. So in the test component here, I have all of these other lifecycle methods commented out. I just want component did mount. That's the important one for this. And let's go to JSON. It's jsonplaceholder.typecode.com, and they have an example, a fetch example right here to fetch a post. Okay, this is just a great resource. It's a fake REST API, so you can make requests to get like users and stuff like that, to-dos, comments, all that. But let's just grab this fetch right here. And like I said, we would put this inside of our component did mount. Now, if I go ahead and I save this and we go back to our test component, you'll see it's actually going to log what it gets. Now with fetch, you actually have to do .then because it returns a promise. So you do .then, you get the response, and then you map it to JSON. Once you do that, you do another .then, and you get the data. I usually call this data instead of JSON. So if we could do that, that's going to do the same thing. And then we just log the data. Now, usually what you would do is you'd probably put this into your state. So let's go ahead and let's put in a title in our state, which starts off as nothing, and then body. Okay, so the initial state is just nothing for the title and body, but let's fill it when we make our request. So let's go ahead and put in some curly braces. And actually, we don't even need curly braces because all we're doing is this dot set state. And again, we don't need to use an arrow function here to use this because it's an actual lifecycle method. So we can say set state, and then in here, let's put in title, and we'll set that to data, which is what we get back. So data.title, and then let's set body to data.body. Okay, so we'll save that. And now if we look in our React tools and we go to the test component, which is buried in here, let's see, route, so test, and take a look at the state. So in our state, we have title and body, and it's been filled with what we got from that API. And if we want to display it, we could go down to our render, and we could, in this H1, let's get rid of this, and we can actually destructure, let's say const, and we're going to pull out the title and the body from this dot state, and we'll go down here and we'll put in title, and then let's put in a paragraph, and we'll put in body and save, and there we go. So we have successfully fetched some data from an API, put it into our state, and rendered it out onto the screen. All right, so let's do the same thing with our actual application rather than this test. So we're going to go to home, and I want to basically fetch the users. So with this example, if I click on users, we can make a request to this URL right here, and we can get 10 users back. And it includes name, email, and phone number, so everything in our application should still work. So I'm going to go ahead and close up the test.js, and we're going to have to do this in our context because that's where our state is. That's where our contacts are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out just this default data that we have for our contacts. So it's just going to be an empty array like that. If I save this, it's just going to go empty. It should. Okay, so now we don't have any contacts. So where we want to make this is, again, in component did mount. The provider is simply a component, so it has that lifecycle method. So let's say component did mount. And like I said, I'm going to use Axios, so I'm going to install it real quick. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to say npm install Axios. But of course, you could use fetch if you wanted to. And we'll close that up, and let's import Axios up at the top. Okay, and then in the component did mount, we're simply going to do axios.get, and let's put in our URL, which is that user's URL, this right here. And you can pretend this is our own backend, our own REST API. And then this will return a promise. So we want to do .then. Whoops. Let's go on the next line and do .then. And it's going to give us a response. And then we want to set the state. So we'll say this.setState. And we want to set contacts to res.data. That's how you access the data through the response, is res.data. So this will be the res.data, and that's what we want to put into the state. So let's go ahead and go back to our application, and let's save this. And there we go. So we're getting all of our data, all of our contacts from that API. And I can delete them, but it's only being deleted from the DOM. What I want to do is I want to mimic an actual front end, and in an actual front end you would make a delete request to the server and also delete it in the DOM. And with this JSON placeholder, you can actually make deletes, you can make put for update, and you can make post requests to add. Now it's not going to get added to their database, it's not going to actually get saved, but it does let you make the request and it gives you a response back. Okay, so it will prevent us from doing a couple things, but we can at least make the requests like it was a real backend. But for now, at least we're fetching the contacts from the API and putting them into our state. So in the next video, what I want to do is just that. I want to make it so that when we delete, we make a delete request, we get the response, and then we update accordingly. Same thing with adding. I want to make a post request to the JSON placeholder API and get the response and then update accordingly. Okay, so it'll be more like a real application rather than just this local stuff. And again, it's not going to stick in the database, but that's fine. It's still the same way of coding. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.